Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. I had hoped to share another progress video with you last week, but I was a little bit under the weather. Nothing serious, just not feeling the very best, and nothing like trying to come in front of a camera under normal circumstances, let alone when you're not feeling very well. So today I have a big update of my progress with Ravellenics. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with the Ravelry event called Ravellenic Summer Games, it is an event where knitters and crocheters and weavers and spinners all come together for a big, I think the best way of just a big chat and show and tell as we try to finish up projects that we'd started before. We try to start and finish a project within the time that the Olympic Games are going on. There is no affiliation with the Olympic organization. It is just inspired by these wonderful athletes, these wonderful games, the community that develops around these athletic games. And we're having our own little international community event. And so I went into Ravellenics right after finishing up Tour de Fleece and just before Tour de Fleece Femmes. So there's a lot of knitting and crochet and spinning and fibery content in the month of July and August this year. So I started off Ravellenics wanting to finish a project that I had started a couple years ago, and I believe I shared this. Yes, I've shared this little dude. He's right over here. She is right over here. I shared in my last video. So I have, this is Emma. I call her Emma, the imperfect, the perfectly imperfect bunny. And she comes out of the pattern book by Carrie Lord. It is Edward's Menagerie. And so this is the third one of the critters that came out of that book that I've made. And I wanted to finish it. And the reason I'm sharing her again, before I share the other things that I've finished for I'm tongue-tied today. The other things that I have finished for Ravellenics is because for those of you that are spinners, we are going to have the final leg of our Tour de Fleece series, this Tour de Fleece Femmes. We're going to have that start on Monday. So August 12th, if you're watching this when this first comes out, is the beginning of the week-long Tour de Fleece Femmes, which follows along the Tour de France Femmes cycling race. And I've decided, since I have done I have done my projected spinning for Ravellenics, I decided that the fiber that I will spin for Tour de Fleece Femmes is some more of the Leicester Longwool that Emma here is made out of. I have made two of her little companions out of different fibers. I have just made a little monster out of, I believe it's a BFL. And I love the texture. I love the shine. I love the color that comes with the Leicester Longwool. For those of you that may not have something like Leicester Longwool, I suspect you will have similar properties with some of the other Longwools, like the Lincoln Longwool that I know is really prevalent in, say, like the UK. So I've decided, and I don't have any of the fiber in right now because we have just come through the backside of the remnants of a tropical storm, and it's extremely wet in the backyard, and I need to trudge out, or have someone else in the family trudge out and get my buckets of fiber. And that's probably something that will be done either later today or later this weekend. But I've decided to spin some Leicester Longwool because my son is making some more little creatures, and I find that the Leicester Longwool spins really well for this little stuffy, this amigurumi type, tightly crocheted critter. I like the fact that when it is spun in a worsted fashion, my preferred spin with it is to just grab locks and spin from the lock directly with only the minimal amount of prep. I find though that when it is spun like that, it makes a very, very good crochet yarn, even if I'm spinning it as I spin for knitting. Either way, you know, with the Z twist or the S twist. When I spin the Leicester Longwool, it doesn't have as much bounce and stretch as I get with some of my other finer yarns that work better for other projects. So I want to spin some more of the Leicester Longwool. I like the sheen. As I've said in, I think, my past video, it's not necessarily always going to be the softest under the chin. Although now that I'm sitting here like this, because I've brushed her, so she's a little, you might be able to see, yes, you can, there we go, you can see. I took a cat slicker brush or a dog slicker brush to her, and I've given her a little bit of a brush to make her a little bit fuzzy. That's actually not bad. So it might actually be a tactile thing that if it were given to a child, they might actually enjoy having the little bit coarser, fuzzier little critter. So either way, that's my goal for Tour de Fleece Femmes. So if you're going to be following along, spinning along, or just watching the progress, that will be the fiber that I'm going to go and get and spin up. I'm going to spin up some undyed cream base. My son wants to make a bunch of little tiny crocheted mushrooms from the second artist we've been trying out a lot of, Megan Lapp. Now, Megan Lapp, this is her latest book, not promoted to share this. This is her latest book. She has a number of patterns available on Ravelry. She also has a website that I think it's Creative Intent. Yeah, Creator of Crafty Intentions. So she has a bunch of patterns on her website. She has 3 books. She has her patterns also available on Ravelry. And my son really fell in love with all of these little mushrooms and little dessert looking mushrooms that she has created. So he wants to be doing some of those. So I'm going to spend Tour de Fleece Femmes spinning a huge quantity of Leicester Longwool for mushroom bases. But I decided for Ravellenics to make a monster. And I made this little guy. Now, the thing I love about Megan Lapp's books is that she shows you a couple different body types. Here, let me show you on the back because you can see those pictures. She shows you a couple different body types. She shows you head types. She shows you then components for eyes and legs. So the book is basically not just one pattern or not just 24 patterns. It is an endless collection of patterns because you can mix and match the components. Now, what I did is I used her patterns as a starting point. As a starting point for the head, a tutorial for the teeth, which I did figure out, but as you can see, they're not, he has a tooth problem. The yarn I was using, it had a little inconsistency in areas, and my by the time I was making the third tooth, this one here, I think I forgot to do a part of it, and so it's a little more jagged. So I promise you, she has good instructions, but it was it took me a while to figure out what I needed to do. And I think she actually has some video snips that she has available that shows this. And if I had been in a situation where I could just go and watch the video, I would have. As it was, I figured out enough to have some little jagged teeth the open mouth, a little tongue, and she has all of these little components. And so what I did is I used the components, and then I was inspired by some of her components, some of the ways she finished things off to create this little guy. You won't find exactly him anywhere. You won't find this squat little body. That was the wonderful thing. I used her components to help me create shapes, to help me be inspired, to definitely help me do this tail. Okay, but the tail is shorter than the tail that she had because it starts from the tip and goes up here. And when it became long enough and big enough for my sized little guy, then I stopped doing the crochet. So I love that about Megan Lapp's book. I love that about her patterns. I can't really evaluate the ease or any of that myself because, well, let's just say I think it's probably easier for somebody who actually have spent a little bit of time reading patterns. But with that being said, I want to share what my son has been making. He has been making his first, following a real pattern, and he's making a variation of this little guy. Now, if we look at that, there's some crochet going on. There's some pattern following. My son has never followed a real crochet type pattern other than making simple round balls or hot pads. So he's following that, and he did have to go to the video to figure out this underside of the hat. Okay, he is almost done. Here's his little dude. That's the underside of the hat. All that he is needing to finish. Let's see. Don't want to lose his spot. All he needs to finish is a few more rows of the upper part of the hat so that it comes out and connects with this outer brim, and then attach it. And this is his first, now, just to throw out, he is in his 20s. This isn't his first craft project. He has definitely been crocheting for many years, but he has never really ever read a pattern. In fact, I think this might be his first reading a pattern and following a pattern, as opposed to doing the kind of crochet that that you learn from somebody showing you and you just repeat. So while he has been crocheting for years, I would say, as far as reading the pattern, yes, he did have to go and find a video to figure out how to do this. I think he said it's a ribbing technique, but he has been figuring it out. He's been following the pattern. Has it been without frustration? No, but is it being successful, and will he have it done in the time frame of Ravellenics as his goal? Yes. In fact, if I delayed this video any longer, he'd have it done. But we are enjoying life and embracing the things that interrupt our life. And so instead of having it done for this video, even though I delayed the video, I have fuzz on my face now. We've embraced life, and it will be done. And I will share that with you. I will share that with you with the next video. And I hope to have another video coming up next week for Tour de Fleece Femmes. I'd like to have another spinning content type video, even though I have spun Leicester Longwool in the past. You should be able to find a video of me spinning Leicester Longwool. I will try to link that video in the description below, and maybe even in the end credits. So I have spun Leicester Longwool before, so I'm not sure if I will have another spinning video of that concept of talking about the Leicester Longwool. I don't know yet. I'm kind of, with this summer, just taking it as it comes and enjoying the journey. But I will definitely show you his little Imkin when I make my next video. Now, wrapping up this video and keeping it short, I wanted to share with you the last things that I was doing for Ravellenics. I had some fiber, as I've said before, when I was dyeing up all the fiber for Tour de Fleece this year, I used the remnant dyes, the stuff that didn't get exhausted out as I dyed my small little batches. I placed in those non-exhausted dye baths some sections of merino roving, and also some, I think this is a débouillé. I'm trying to remember. I think it's a cross, but I basically took some of the fiber that I had just inside in bags, and I dyed up some kind of remnants. And this is some of the spinning that I've done for Ravellenics. My big spin, which I have shared pictures of it on Ravelry, the first real spin that I did was the combing waist from my Tour de Fleece spin. I did a lot of rainbow because I was using up a lot of colors. So this is its progress. This is the yarn, and I will show a picture here of what the yarn looked like before I put it in a granny ball. And this is my son's knitting. What he's doing, he's never knit in the round before. Again, he's been knitting for a very long time, and he's knit some really wonderful scarves, and he has knit with he's knit cables, cable patterns, but he has not really knit in the round on a circular needle like this. So we have a simple, like making a toe up sock. So think a big gigantic sock here. Started at the bottom. He's knitting in the round. He's knitting very loose gauge because this is the Romney, and it felts beautifully. And when he is done knitting a bit more, we're going to felt it down so it will be a bag. He likes playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I think this is going to be a little dice and treasure bag. So that was the first spin that I did for Tour de Fleece. Then I moved on to the merino that I dyed. And then this is just the last little bit of dye being exhausted. And it's I think it's a débouillé cross. It's a bag of fiber. It's beautifully soft, wonderful fiber, but and it's probably, I don't know if it's just my fleece or if it's more typical. I have spun débouillé before, but this is the type of fleece that you really want to comb and remove all the neps and remove any vegetable matter. And I did not do that when I did this dye. I did not do this when I carded it up. I was just using it as a sponge. And so it's slubby. It wasn't as fun. It is a fiber that really benefits from being clean, and then it's nice and soft, and it can be a really fine, beautiful spin. I just spun it to get it spun. So as you can see, I have not plied anything yet. That would have, again, required this video to be delayed. This is going to be plied in a chain ply. Even though I have the two spools, this will be, this is 4 ounces of the merino, give or take, and this will be chain plied, so it'll be another rainbow skein. This is going to be plied from a center pull ball. This will certainly go into my stash of fiber that I keep on hand, believe it or not, for doing things like noses, etc. It's always nice to have little balls of yarn on hand for accessory pieces. For instance, the rainbow that Megan actually uses a lot of, in her book, she uses a lot of variegated, stripy, self-striping yarns. The little tuft of rainbow could be quite fun to do little components like horns. This little guy, his tongue is just a little ball of sample yarn that I did. In fact, it's a single. So whenever I'm trying to do a little sample, whenever there's something kind of left over, I keep a little basket with these small remnants or little sample spins. And I keep that little basket near where I'm crocheting or knitting. And if I need a tiny little accent color, a little tongue, maybe a tuft of hair, then I can grab that from the basket. So that is my tip. When you're, as a spinner, when you're wanting to maybe do a little sample spin, just a couple yards of test to see if you like it, if you want to try a technique, take that and make them just roll after you set the twist, treat it just like you would a big hank of yarn, and then roll it up into a little granny ball, which I don't like to store my yarns in the little granny balls, but when I'm dealing with just a little sample, the easiest way to store it is actually to roll it up into a little granny ball, keep it in a bag or basket near where you're doing your crochet or knitting, and then when you need that little pop of color, like Emma's nose, I haven't named this one yet, my little yellow monster, a little tongue color, when you need that, then you'll have it nearby. It is a good, fun way of having, you know, the little extras. In fact, that's how I had his teeth as well. Little tiny remnant balls, little tiny scraps. I keep those in a bag or basket, and then they are there available when I'm ready to do a little guy like this. So yeah, that's actually a single that never even got plied. It was a thick and thin. I'm pretty sure it goes way back into the days of somebody learning how to spin, whether it was me or my kids, but it was usable. And it was left over from making a cat toy, because of course those little sample spins also are great for making cat toys. And it was there, it was the right color. And that's the thing I love about the crochet, especially crocheting to make these little stuffed animals, because you're using a smaller hook than you would normally use with the gauge of yarn in order to get this tight, dense stitching. And that is perfect for something like using up a little tiny bit of a sample spin or a single. And the single had clearly been fulled and, you know, washed and done a little bit of felting to try to keep it as a single. So it's how she was made. I think it might be a she. I'm not sure. It might be a he. I don't know. And I just wanted to also mention, look at those thick eyes. Oh my goodness. I did a bigger search for some large, I think this is like a 1 inch. I can't remember how many. There's still some plastic protective coating on the side there. I haven't taken the photos yet. That it hasn't had its photo shoot. So I'm just now noticing, but I love these big, huge eyes. And they're really simple. They're really fun. The color, they're clear. This is a clear acrylic with the black. The blue color is just a piece of vinyl that goes behind it. So this was a new find. You know what? I think I'll go ahead. I'll put the ink. I got it on Amazon. I will put the link to these specific eyes in the description below. Also, you may have noticed the little Imkin has dragon eyes. So I'll put a link to those two sets of eyes in the description below in case you haven't ever seen anything quite as gigantic as, look at me, look how thick. So, because that's the other thing, if you notice with this pattern book, giant eyes, and it makes a huge difference. I had never used anything, I'd never even considered using anything this huge for a little tiny critter, but it changes the look. So there's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will join me again next week as I am spinning Tour de Fleece Femmes. I hope that you will unwind with some fiber and fabric, and we will see you again soon. Oh, and one last thing. A shout out to all of my loyal followers, and a shout out to all of you new followers who I hope you will be loyal followers as well. Whether I'm doing fabric or fiber, I hope you will take time to unwind with fiber and fabric with me. Until the next time, happy spinning, crafting, knitting, whatever it is that gives you joy. I hope you have tons of joy doing it. Until next time, bye-bye.